Hey, Juby here. I hope you're all well. Today we're going to head straight into discussing how repetition is used in filmmaking. Repetition is everywhere around us when we think about our world. If you think of clocks ticking or walking up the stairwell or rolling waves coming in, so we are very much used to repetition. When we use it for filmmaking, it can either create something that's quite unsettling, or we can use it to soothe the viewer. Remember to subscribe if you want to hear more about filmmaking and also just follow my creative journey. Repetition is hardwired into the world around us. If you think of our seasons, even our days, daily activities, the moon, the sun cycles, our own bodies, our heartbeat, our breathing, it's all part of how we understand and perceive the world. Often when something repeats, we do feel safe. There's some comfort around things returning or repeating. And this is often why children love lullabies, and the same lullaby being sung every night before bed or the same book being read. They often feel safe when something is a repeat of something. Also, we enjoy repetition when we think about rituals that can be quite sacred to us, or music is also repetitionist. But repetition can also be very suffocating, just like a sound or a piece of music stuck in your head. A word, if you repeat it constantly, loses its meaning. So repetition can soothe, but it can disturb. And that dichotomy can have endless possibilities when it comes to filmmaking and art in general. In cinema, looping is a very clever way to play with repetition. Unlike linear storytelling, looping can trap the viewer as it refuses to progress. A loop forces the viewer to notice details they'd easily overlook. When a gesture repeats, when a gesture repeats, when a gesture repeats, that familiar becomes strange. When repetition is used in that way, the viewer and the narrative that's going on gets forced apart, and we can see the medium of the film itself. So let's dig a little bit deeper into how the repetition works for an audience. Let's start with the natural world. Ripples on water that are going out in a repetitionist way, waves, wind going through the branches in a lullaby-like moment can form a type of trance, and our minds can rest in this rhythm. But if we change that type of subject, for example, a repetitious movement as in someone pacing, a nervous tick, a door slamming again and again and again, that type of repetition can create an anxious feeling in the viewer. In all filmmaking, you can use repetition for a number of reasons. In experimental filmmaking, you can push it further than you could normally do in narrative. You could really push the calming, soothing, and then bring it back into quite a disruptive nervousness. So that's a type of repetition that's happening in the content itself, but you can also structure repetition into the film. We've all seen films that begin and end at the same point, called a circular narrative. One of my first short films I made, Kitty, which is actually on this YouTube channel, has a circular narrative. So in that type of structure, when the beginning and the end are the same or very, very similar, the circular narrative structure, it entraps the characters. The characters can't quite move on, and so you get that feeling of entrapment in the viewer as well, like nothing's progressing in a linear way, because our world normally progresses. There's life, there's death, there's patterns there and repetition, but it doesn't come back to the same. It's always slightly different. So when you do get a pure circular narrative, it really does feel uncomfortable. Repetition isn't just a technical trick or a technical know-how. It's also quite a philosophical way to approach filmmaking. And with my experimental filmmaking, I've used repetition a lot. The short film Returning, actually, which is also on this channel, it is about repetition, and even the title returning, so returning over and over and over to something. Even though the repetition isn't exact, the repeating movements do create a very uncanny, uneasy feeling. So when you're using repetition, I think it's important to know why you're using it, because it has this, well, everything has a philosophical element when we come to filmmaking. But I think repetition is a huge, powerful tool that you can use philosophically and technically, obviously. But philosophically, it causes a disruption. And I think if you do use it, because it's so powerful, you just need to think through really carefully why and how you're using it. Also, I would watch a lot of films that do use repetition. There's lots of famous narrative films that use it, but there's also a lot of experimental filmmakers that use it. I'll list some below. I think there's a lot of reading around this too, that if you're really interested in the idea of repetition and the philosophy around it, then there are some good resources on that, and I'll link some of those below too. Also, I want to add that I am doing 2 workshops. One is in Tamaki Makaurau on the 1st and 2nd of November. So you do have to be here, but the other one is a 6-week course, and it is all online, so you don't have to be here. I'll link everything you need to know about them down below as well. So that's just my short chat on repetition. There's so much about this subject. I might actually go into it more next week, because we've only just scratched a tiny bit of the surface. And it's a really interesting one. I use it a lot, as I've said, and you can see some examples of my own work using it. That's it. I hope you have such a good week, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.